Hello everyone, and welcome to our presentation today about the ELO for SAP ERP Business Solution ELO Invoice. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Michael, and today I would like to guide you through specifically the Business Solution ELO Invoice and the template invoice for SAP, which is an extension for that. And also I would like to give you a brief product overview over what we offer at the Competence Center ERP at ELO. So what's today's agenda? At first, I would like to show you our products that we offer when it comes to connecting ELO and SAP ERP. And then I would like to talk a little bit more about the ELO suite, which is part of our products that specifically was designed for communication between ELO and SAP. After that, I would like to show you some details about our invoice template SAP, which is based on the Business Solution Invoice of ELO. And in the end, which will be the most part of this presentation today, I will show you a live demo of the system of some different functionalities. And of course, mainly of the invoice template SAP. So during this session, if you have any questions, you can see in the GoToMeeting tool, there will be a panel for questions, a designated panel. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to post your questions there in the chat window, and I will be glad to answer them after this presentation. So I have reserved 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how many questions we have, and in the end, after the live demo, I will try to answer all the questions. If we have too many, I can of course also send an email afterwards. Okay, so this is a brief overview over the products that we offer. Maybe I start at the top. We have a specific solution for ELO Web Dev when it comes to SAP ILM. ILM is short for Information Lifecycle Management. So SAP ILM is a specific tool component of SAP that was designed for topics regarding data archiving and everything that comes with it. If you look at, for example, regulations like GDPR, SAP ILM is also designed to comply to law depending on the country that you're in. And then we have the ELO Connectivity Pack for SAP ERP, which is basically provides functions for communicating between ELO and SAP, so it goes both directions. I will elaborate on that later. We have the ELO Smart Link for SAP, which acts as an interface. So this is more of a technical component that ensures that the data transfer functionalities work via this interface. And also we have the ELO Toolbox, which is more of a UI component. So this is basically for enhancing user experience both in ELO and in SAP by, for example, allowing easy navigation between objects in ELO and objects in SAP, for example. Okay, so first of all, I would like to tell you something about the Smart Link for SAP ERP. This is the basic framework in the ELO suite for all SAP Archive Link products. It basically acts as a communication interface between ELO and SAP Archive Link. So it's above the basic components. It acts as so whenever there's communication, Smart Link will be used from both sides to communicate with the other side. Of course, we are certified by SAP, so that means if you have an external component like the Smart Link is SAP certified, SAP guarantees full support for the applications. Okay, your connectivity pack for SAP ERP. The connectivity pack, as I said before, is responsible for the communication between ELO and SAP. And this basically comes down to two main functions. First of all, the index download, as you can see in the graph here, that index download is basically the direction from SAP to ELO. So whenever we have a business object in SAP, some transactional data, and we want that data in ELO, for example, we have a purchase order and we need that metadata about the purchase order, like who ordered or what's the total amount of the order. Index download is responsible for transferring this information to ELO. And the other way around is the data transfer function. Data transfer handles all the cases where we need to transfer data into SAP. So this is done on provided interfaces by SAP. So for example, for all the business objects like accounting documents or purchase order or whatever, we do have well-defined interfaces by SAP, and we can call them from ELO by using our data transfer function and providing information or even creating transactional data, for example, posting a document in SAP automatically from ELO. Okay. Again, some details about the index download function. So maybe what's interesting here is that, as you can see, in SAP, all our components that need to be imported into SAP are prefixed by /ELO/, which is an own namespace that is registered at SAP. So it's guaranteed by using this namespace that none of your other customer-specific developments will be impacted by that. And yeah, we have the full capability of transferring all the metadata that is provided by the specific business object into ELO. Now this works very generic. So what it does is looking at all the provided interfaces that provide information about the specific object, and but this can still be extended if you have special needs. For example, getting data that is not provided by the SAP interface, there's still options to have customer-specific programming to extend the set of fields that is returned from SAP into ELO. Now, the data transfer function, we can see that we have a two-way communication, which means that whenever we call a function from SAP, we always have the possibility to get data in return. For example, if we post an accounting document from ELO into SAP, we, for example, get at least, for example, error messages back and can handle these directly in ELO. So, for example, if the account doesn't exist that was entered, an according message would come back through the function, and you could show it on an ELO form, for example. Now, the data transfer is a very powerful function package. Here are some examples for which it could be used at your client side or at your side if you are a potential client. We have search helps, which are basic SAP search tools to look for possible values. For example, if you want to know a company code by the address, there's a search help for company codes. We can incorporate all of these elementary SAP search helps that already exist in ELO without any additional programming. And in ELO, these are so-called dynamic keyword lists, which are used, for example, on forms. So whenever the user enters the address of the company, we could call this search help in SAP, and this is basically a live view on the SAP data that we have. So there's no need to do, for example, any exports like CSV exports, which we have often seen in the past at a client side. The data is directly triggered from the system. No need to have any additional data maintenance. Another example, which I already talked about, is the automatic creation of transactional data, like parking or posting an invoice. And what we also have is creating automatic document links, which means that whenever we have a document in ELO that should be linked to SAP, for example, to later use Toolbox functionality to directly jump into it, which I will show you later as an example, we can do this also via the data transfer function. And again, as long as there is, for example, an SAP search help that you can use, there's no programming in SAP required. And for example, as long as SAP offers an API for transactional data, like posting an invoice or any other transactional data, there's no additional developments required. Okay, some words about the ELO Toolbox for SAP. This basically extends what you can do in both ELO and SAP clients in the GUIs. So here in the screenshot, you can see an example. Sorry that this is not translated. I will show you, but I will show you to this in the system afterwards with English text. So for example, we now have the possibility to upload the mails directly from Outlook, or we can upload files directly from Windows Explorer. And I will show you this as an example afterwards. Okay, the last topic I wanted to talk to you about in theory is the SAP invoice template. So as I said before, the invoice template is based on the ELO Business Solution Invoice, but it is extended to be able to integrate into an SAP posting process. So what does that mean is that, for example, fields that the user has to fill, like accounting assignments, for example, GL accounts or cost centers, or document types, they are all integrated into SAP Search Help in this template. So there's dynamic keyword lists. If the user in ELO enters something in a field that is connected to an SAP Search Help, it will automatically give you results from the Search Help for the user to find the corresponding entry that they need. And so we have these different types of incoming invoices. Either they have a relationship to an order with an order reference, or they don't. If they do have an order relationship in SAP for any one that already uses SAP is the transaction MIRO, which is posting an incoming invoice with order reference. And if you just have an accounting invoice without order reference, you would post it, for example, in FP60, which is just an accounting incoming invoice. And all of these processes, including the parking version where the document is not directly posted, but just saved and not posted in accounting. All of these variants with or without order reference and with or without parking and any combination of that, we already have implemented in this template, and it's just a matter of configuration. So you can choose whichever business case you prefer. Now, this template is meant as an implementation example. So, of course, this has to be configured for the specific needs that you have with your own processes, but it's a good starting point. And most of our experience show that it doesn't take much customization to be able to work at a customer site. Okay, again, if you already have some questions, now you can of course put them into the questions panel as I already suggested. Otherwise, if you have maybe off-topic questions or any other questions regarding our products, please feel free to contact us. Our email address is erp@elo.com. Okay, so now I would like to show you a few things live in the system. So for this purpose, let me open up the remote system. Just to give you a heads up, we don't have a purely international demo system. So of course I can log in English languages, but please forgive us if there's any German fragments like texts or German date formats in there. Please don't be confused by that, but I think in most cases, yeah, it will still be easy to understand what I'm showing. So what I would like to start with is show an example of automatic storage in the ELO system when a document comes from SAP. In this case, I prepared a purchase order, which I entered here. Maybe keep in mind that it's ending with a 77. And in this case, I can just print the purchase order as a document, so that, for example, the items are listed in there. Now, just to show you the before and after, let me go into the corresponding path that it will be assigned to in ELO, and this is this path. This can be dynamically configured, for example, which type of business object, in this case a purchase order, in which path it will be stored in ELO. In this case, it will be this path, and we can see that at the moment we do have a few entries here, and all of these folders contain the respective documents that were attached to the purchase order, and the last number is ending in 75. So if I now go back to SAP and trigger this message output, which prints the basically a PDF based on what was entered in this purchase order, and check this and say output message. Okay, it says was successful. So now I go back to ELO and refresh that. Maybe we have to wait a few seconds. Let's take a quick look into the purchase order to make sure which vendor we have in there. Okay, we can see it's this vendor E0003. Okay, now it was transferred. Of course, this is depending on how often the respective job runs in the background. It took maybe like 30 seconds now, and but now we can see the new number is 77. This path was dynamically created based on the metadata. And here we can see now we do have this document here that was just printed from SAP. Okay, and maybe just to show you the other way around, if I am in ELO and I look at my purchase orders, for example, in the folder structure like this, and I can see this is an interesting purchase order. I would like to show it in SAP. So maybe let's just close that so that we can be sure that there's nothing open in the background. And if I go here and we have this tab SAP, and if we click on Show SAP Object, yeah, okay, yeah, this is maybe still a misconfiguration. I can, yeah. So as you saw, I had the folder selected, but I needed to select the document. That was an error on my part. So just to show that again, I go out of here. If I go to Show SAP Object on the PDF file, it will automatically jump into the purchase order in SAP, and we can work from there. Okay, so another example I would like to show you from the ELO Toolbox is attaching documents from the Windows Explorer. So I have a file here. I call it calculation. This is just some Excel file. Actually, it's not important for the purpose of this demo what the file contains, but we do have a file that we want to attach here, and we have it open in Explorer and selected it. Now, if I go into the ELO Toolbox here, I can say upload selected files from Explorer. I just click on that. And here it will show me a list of all the files that are selected. So I could have selected multiple files. And if the file types are allowed, which is a one-time configuration, I could check all of the files I would like to upload, or maybe I just want to select a few of them, depending on what I want to do. I just have one file. I would like to upload this. So it's checked and I continue. And if I go back into the attachment list now, we can see this. Okay, this is the initial document we printed before. And here we can see the new file I just uploaded from Explorer. And again, if we go back to ELO and refresh this, the file is also now automatically uploaded below this folder of the purchase order, and we can access it from here. Okay, so much for that. Now let's get into the template invoice. For this, I also made a preparation. I did have a invoice document, so I can just maybe open that. It's this one. Maybe open it in PDF. So it's just a normal invoice. Maybe that's also German formatting, but I translated all the keywords. And this would be, for example, a document that you receive and put it into your in tray in ELO for later processing. So I already did that. I put it into the in tray, and then I filed it as an invoice. After that, I think in most cases, the doc extractor comes into place that automatically reads data from the invoice and assigns it to the correct field. For example, like dates and of course all of the amounts. And I skip that now because I already did that. In the end, you will have a workflow item that starts the invoice workflow with everything that was extracted by doc extractor. So if we go into the tasks now, I can see that there's one task that I want to focus now. This is based on the invoice that I uploaded before. So I will accept this workflow. And this is actually the document as it was input by doc extractor. So I didn't make any changes to this. So let's take a look. Now, this is the basic form of the Business Solution invoice with the changes made regarding the SAP components. So maybe some of you are already familiar with that. Of course, this form is customizable in any customer project. So first thing I want to look at is the document type. If I just make that empty, you can see it took a few seconds or not even a second. And we can see that now we have multiple document types we can choose from. These are actually now all the document types that are currently in our SAP system. And of course, if I want to filter that, for example, I want to look for a vendor. I can see document types that have vendor in their description, for example. So all of this data is compared in real time with the system, and matching entries are returned by the SAP Search Help. So in this case, I want to choose KR, which is a vendor invoice. I just click on that. And most of the other data was already read from doc extractor. For example, the company code is 1000. That's okay. The vendor was automatically extracted. And the only thing that I have to change here is ordered by, which is going to be the ELO user that of the person that made the initial order, or basically needs to process the workflow in a later step. So I will just enter my username here. Of course, in order to be able to post this in SAP, we need a posting date. So I will just choose today. Okay, let's go a little bit further more down. Payment terms. We already had payment terms on the invoice. As you can see here, these are the lines. For example, payment within 14 days for a discount of 3%, or payment within 45 days for a discount of 0% with the net price. Here in the source field, we can see this. Okay, these were extracted by doc extractor from the document. But of course, in many cases, you want to have the payment terms that are defined on the vendor account that we have here in SAP. So in order to do that, for example, we enter specific payment terms that we want from SAP. And again, this is a real-time view on the SAP payment terms. So for example, if I remove some characters from here, we can see that there are many more. I want to choose 0015. Now I can click on load payment terms, and now take a look at what happens. We will have 3 more rows in this table here, and I will show the difference after I click on it. So now we have 3 more rows. The first 3 rows were from doc extractor, which came in automatically. And now from this payment term that we chose, the 0015, we will have 3 more lines to choose from, which are coming from ELO, as you can see in the source column. Okay, so these are these payment term lines are here so that the user can choose a due date. So they can always choose one due date. And this is important, for example, for the Business Solutions Invoice dashboard. I will not be going into that today. So in the dashboard, for example, you can make a reporting on what are the open items still, what needs to be paid, and when is that due. And you can set the due date basically from this. So you can choose any of these lines, either extracted automatically from the invoice document, or loaded from SAP afterwards. Okay, right at the bottom on the invoice data, we could also choose to have an order reference. Now this would of course influence which type of business transaction is executed later when we transfer it to SAP. I could make a check mark here and look for any orders, again, using a search help directly from SAP, and choose the corresponding order we need. But for the sake of simplicity today, we will not choose that. We will just post a normal accounting invoice without any order reference. Okay, so much for the main data. I can now go to the item data and see what was extracted by doc extractor. We can see that we have quantities and we have prices basically. Now here the user can also, of course, enhance these data. They can enter article numbers if there are any. They can enter description texts. I just call them item 1 through item 3, just to give you an example. But I can write here whatever I want. Now, since these are relevant for controlling, we need a controlling object. In this case, I will decide to put a cost center. And here again, we do have a live view on the SAP system. I just enter the same cost center for all the line items. What else do we need? We do need a general ledger account on which this item will be posted. I will just choose my favorite account for all of the items. Just copy it. And we're done. Okay, the user can check again if all of the totals are corresponding to what was on the invoice, for example, but this is usually done in doc extractor directly, so you can usually, if doc extractor is in place, you can usually trust what comes in here. And in the end, we need to fill a tax code, which is of course relevant for the tax calculation within SAP. So I just enter VA, which is German domestic input tax of 19%. And you can see if I enter this here on the right-hand side, all of the information about the tax code is automatically retrieved from the system and the tax is calculated accordingly. Okay, so for this case, that's all we need to enter here. I save this. I'll take a brief look if I didn't forget anything, hopefully. And now let's try to, maybe just one more thing. I just saw that we do have an option for credit note. So whenever you have don't have an incoming invoice, but for example, you want to send a credit note based on an incoming invoice that came in earlier, you can just set this mark credit note, and then all the posting will be reversed. So debit becomes credit, credit becomes debit, so that the invoice is correctly posted in SAP. Okay, so now yeah, we can forward this to approval. Again, this is just a workflow setup. So of course, workflows can be freely defined for any requirement you have. In this case, we have a multi-layer approval process where many parties are involved. Of course, this can be enhanced in any way. We can have fewer steps. We can have steps depending on the invoice amount. We can have even more steps if that is your requirement. In this case, we have some steps. I will not go into the detail for any of the steps because this doesn't change really the product itself or the invoice form itself. So let me just forward this to approval and see which are the next steps. Okay, now the work item disappeared. And again, since I'm the only one showing this process, of course, I will be the only one receiving the work items. In a real world example, we would, of course, have many different people or many different user groups that will be processing these work items depending on your processes and your workflow design. So I just refresh this and we can see, okay, now again, we have a new work item here. I'll accept it. And this is just an approval step, for example. Now, maybe if I am the person who ordered this, and now I would get this workflow, which is, as you can see, basically the invoice data, but in a more lean way. So there's fewer information displayed. Basically, is about the total amount and the line item amounts. So yeah, I can reject this if something is not correct. And if everything is okay, I can approve it. So I jump over these approval steps quickly now. So this is the next work item step. Again, a similar view on the data. We can approve. So this is just another step. Yeah, and as you can see, the markup of the data changes slightly depending on the workflow step. Also, this is of course possible to choose different forms that can also be customized to your needs depending on the workflow step. For example, the accounting supervisor maybe just needs to see a total amount, but the accountant that is responsible for posting maybe wants to see some more data. And this can be different views on the data can be attached to different workflow steps or effectively to different people or groups of people that need to process this workflow. Okay, click approve again. Hopefully we are on the end of the workflow soon. So this is the next workflow item. So, and this is basically the last step before we transfer this to ERP. We can see the initial view on the data again. We have all the data like invoice data and item data. And maybe this is, for example, a step for the actual accountant that is responsible for posting this. So they can check everything again, and if it is okay, now the next step is forwarding this to ERP. So maybe before I do that, let me go into the repository and show you the structure. We have the invoice and then the entry folder. And here we can see, let me check again, there's many invoices here. Also go into the archive and compare. Okay, yeah, it has already been transferred here. So in the entry folder, there's just the invoices that haven't yet been processed in the workflow up to a certain threshold. But here we can see this is our invoice. You can see it's color blue, so this means it has not yet been fully processed. So not all workflow steps has been done, and in this case, not the transferring to SAP has not yet been done. But this is our object, which has been automatically put into this folder structure here. In this case, we do have folders by year and then by the beginning character of the vendor name, and then the vendor name. And below that, we have the different invoice objects. Okay, so this has been automatically put into here. Again, this can be freely configured depending on all the metadata we have. So basically everything we have in the invoice here can be used to build a corresponding path to which these invoices will be saved in your system. Okay, so we can see this is now blue. And if I go back, maybe put the cursor here so that we can see this is a blue entry. Also, of course, these colors can be chosen however you like. I just click on forward to ERP because everything is fine. Okay, so maybe we have a timeout here. So let me just see what changed here. Okay, so there was a timeout of the form server, as you saw, which may occur because this demo system has been used all day, and but this didn't change now that the hosting did work in the background. As you can see now, if I go into the SAP tab on the document form, we see that now we do have a document number here. And of course, I can jump into SAP directly from here. Open in the background, and here we can see our document that we just transferred. As you can see, this is just a parked document. This is a matter of configuration. We could also have posted this directly if we wanted to. There's basically no difference. And but in this case, we configured it to have a parked document just to show you that we can handle both cases. So if I take this document now and go to the corresponding SAP transaction to post this, this is already a document number. I would be able to directly post this here, but before I do that, let me go back here and show you that here in open items, this is currently empty. And of course, as soon as we post this document in accounting, we will have open items on the vendor, and then we expect to have a document number here. So let's go back to the document and post the parked document. So basically, there's no changes I need to do if the settings are correct. So if all the data is transferred that we need to transfer, we can just post this without doing any other step. Okay, and here's the success message. It was posted. Please don't be confused by the document number because this is the same number that we have for the parked document. And this is, of course, just depending on the system settings in SAP. In this case, it is configured to use the same document number for the posted document that was used for the parked document. So let's go back to our ELO invoice, refresh this, and we can see now we do have a new entry in open items, the document number and document year. And again, these are the same document numbers just because the system is configured that way. Okay, and we do have this category balanced also. This document number would be filled as soon as the open item on the vendor account is balanced. This, of course, can, for example, happen during the payment run, or if you manually repost the open items to another account, depending on your processes. I will not show that today, but this is, of course, a possibility, or it's a actual functionality that as soon as this document or this line item on the vendor account is balanced, we will also have a document number here. And then from ELO, the accountant can directly see, for example, this process is now fully finished. Document was transferred as parked, as you can see here. It was posted, as you can see here. And in the end, it was paid or cleared in any way, as you would be able to see on the document number here. Okay, so this basically wraps up our example. We have now put an invoice document into ELO, which was read by Doc Extractor. Put in all the additional data like account assignments that we needed. We were able to transfer this to SAP after all the workflow approval steps. And we were able to post this document directly without any changes. And again, I told it before, but I'm going to repeat it. It's no problem to just switch the mode in which the data is transferred, specifically to say we do not want to park this, we directly want to post it, and this is just one switch you need to do in the configuration, and then we wouldn't have any parked invoice here. We would directly have only this open item, document number, and in this case, of course, the data would be reportable directly in financial accounting. Okay, so this is everything I wanted to show you today. I do not see any questions now. I don't know if there's a technical issue or if there weren't any questions asked. So again, we do have a few minutes left. So if there's any questions, you can still put them into the questions panel, and I will try to answer them. If there's a technical issue, please save your questions and send them to our email address, erp@elo.com. Then I would be answering them later and send them to all the participants of this webinar. Okay, so since I don't see any questions, yeah, we are finished a little bit earlier than expected. So yeah, that's time we can maybe use otherwise. I would like to thank you very much for your audience. And again, if you have any questions, please send us an email. We will be answering them soon. Thank you very much and have a good day. Awesome said thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. You have a good day. Bye-bye.